Shabbat Shalom, family. Shabbat Shalom. So, we're going to have a little strange day today. Giving all honor and praise unto the Most High King of all creation, our Master, our Ruler, our Controller, the possessor of all things that is, was, and shall be. And we are delighted to be in His assembly on this day in the land of the living. What we have here is that we have our main support and helper, the brains of the operation, is not with us today. So we're going to have to do it ourselves, okay? So y'all be patient with us and bear with us. So what we really need is we need y'all to post those questions in the room, because how are you logged in? You logged in what?
I'm on your page, yeah.
All right, so you can see the questions as they come up? All right, wonderful. So maybe we can get you to read them. So we're going to get the brother to read the questions as they come up. Hopefully, Shalom Ishi, Isha. Hopefully you guys will be able to post your questions in the room, and we'll be able to address those questions and give you some answers and, you know, give you some great understanding today. Creator willing, we'll be able to do that. I pray that we are. We got a lot of things that we want to discuss today, but I want to start with the questions and answers as normal. Okay? Oh, let's talk about this flag back here for a minute. Can y'all see that flag? You see that flag right there? I used to be a part of an organization, United Nation of Israel. I might have been like the brother's helper, somewhere up in that order. I don't remember how I was, but you know, we were somewhere up in there in high rankings. We had a little fallout. We separated, but we never separated from the cause and the purpose and what it's all about. And I believe that we as Israel, that's how we're supposed to do things. Even if you can't get along with an individual, whatever that cause is and that purpose is in the order of righteousness, you still should help to support that movement in many different ways. So I will go out to speaking engagements and help them out in different ways to try to support what the cause is about. Because it's about the nation. It's not about one individual. It's never about one individual when you talk about restoring these people to their rightful position. It's about the nation. So we have to remember that always, no matter what our differences are. We may have our differences in beliefs and understanding. A lot of people believe in JC and a lot of people don't. It doesn't matter to a certain degree. We still have to be able to work together, to come together and to formulate different things to strengthen, to unify, and to promote and excel our people to excellence and greatness in this earth, in this time of our captivity. So we have to be able to put our emotions aside and our beliefs aside and deal with the facts as they are, that we are a people. We have to be able to work with that. So the flag. So when I was on the UNY, United Nation of Israel, we had to come up with a flag. So we took a vote and we decided how we were going to organize it and structure it. So actually Prince has actually helped to design the flag that's the national emblem for the house of Israel, the true nation of Israel. So what you can do is you can try to get your flag, family, and support and do what you can do. If you are a really good person, they may donate it to you. And if not, you may have to get it a different way. But today is a Shabbat, so let's deal with the Shabbat issues. I am so excited to be here today. I am. I'm looking forward to some very intriguing questions. Anything popped up in the room yet? Don't be the last one, y'all, because once we get started, we rolling. Don't be the last one now. Any questions in the room? No questions? All right. Do you have any questions? Did you bring any with you? The only thing. He came and he's not prepared. The only thing. What is the only thing?
As far as Esau.
Esau.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, on one hand, the white man, then I'm hearing the Arab man.
Esau, the white man, or the Arab man?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Keep going, I'm listening.
And Also, some say now, I have no reason why people say that, but some people say as far as they're the Ashkenazi Jews that's in our land now, that's supposed to be Esau. I don't believe that, but that's another. So I'm trying to figure out who exactly is Esau.
Who exactly is Esau? Well, one thing I tell you about Esau is your brother.
Exactly. That's why.
That's who Esau is.
That's why.
So if you want to say the white man is Esau, then keep in mind the white man is your brother.
Exactly.
So I don't subscribe to that as far as the white man being Esau. I don't subscribe to that theory because I don't know that to be true. There's a brother who we still do have a lot of respect for. You may know him. His name is Obadiah Yisrael. He's did an extensive research on Esau. The Obadiah was from the house of Hetzabah here in Philadelphia some years ago. And some of the photos he pulled up of who he believes the house of Esau is, I don't know where these people actually lived, but they had light skin, blonde hair, nappy, when I say nappy, kingly, blonde hair like us, and they came in different shades, but their hair was tight. But those were the people he thought was of the descendants of Esau. Now, I don't know how true that is either. I know that the Most High says several things about Esau, how he feels about Esau. And I know where Esau has traveled, the Idumeans, in ancient days, they were named the Idumeans, or Esau. And they actually took our place. Idumeans was actually put in our stead, and we had to flee. And the Idumeans took our place in the time of the Maccabees, Judas Maccabees, and things of that nature. That's prophesied in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, where the Father says that people who are placed below you shall rise above you. And that happened with the Idumeans. They actually took our place. And this is why a lot of people tie the Edomites today to, that's why they tie the Jewish people today to Edom. Because Edom is Idumea, the Idumeans. And the Idumeans actually usurped our position, took our place. When Antiochus Epiphanes came in and he did the abominations of desolations, he actually roasted a pig, sacrificed a pig on the altar. All this can be found in the book of the Maccabees, but you have to be a learned man. You have to read these things. Well, what he did was when he conquered us, he took the inhabitants that we had as captives and raised them above us, and we ran and fled to the mountains, those that he didn't kill. All right, so that's supposed to be, that was around 300 BC, somewhere in that area. That was supposed to be in the time frame when the Edomites, the Jewish man, let's say, I hate to call them Edomites, but most people only know them by that term. Exactly. That's when the Jewish man actually came in and took over and began to live in our stead, in our land. At that time, he was under the Grecian Empire. Alexander the Great was Grecian. You remember Alexander the Great? Well, he had 4 generals. And when he died, his 4 generals took over. Antiochus was the son of Antiochus I, who came in and took over, and he did the abominable things in the land and put the Idumeans in our stead, in our land. Okay? Ptolemy was one of his generals, one of the original generals of Alexander the Great. Ptolemy was, and Ptolemy went on and ruled in Egypt. And this is where you get Cleopatra from. Cleopatra comes from the lineage of Ptolemy. Ptolemy was a king. He set himself up as king when he went in, and he was a Greek. So anybody that tell you that Cleopatra was a black woman is lying to you. Cleopatra was not a black woman. She was a European woman. She comes out of the lineage of Ptolemy. Okay? So don't let nobody tell you that, because it wouldn't be true. But you got to research, you got to learn history, and you got to understand all these things. So I'm all over the place with this first little portion. just to answer your question about Esau. I'll put it like this. I don't rightfully know who Esau is today. I'm not going to assume and I'm not going to throw that on someone else who more than likely is not Esau. Esau was Rudy and Harry. That was one of the traits of Esau. Who he is today and where he is, I don't know. I can't say for sure. All right? All right, you want to check, see if there's any questions in the room? Because once we get started, we're going to get started.
No, not right now.
Okay. You said there's no questions.
Well, maybe I'm on your page. Maybe I'm on my page and think I'm on your page.
Okay, so here we go. This is what I got to do to try to get things moving sometimes, family. I'm sorry, but my main helper's not here today. If my main help was here, I wouldn't have all these issues, but y'all gonna see me sometime looking down at my phone just to make sure ain't nothing in the room going on. So here we go. I want to address one of the posts that we had today before we even get moving a whole lot further. I want to address one of the posts that went up in the room today that I put up. And it was about something on the verse of, should a man love a woman before he marries her? Is it like a necessity thing? And first I want to applaud everyone who contributed it to responding to the posts. I think it was very intriguing, some of the responses that we got. But in my opinion, part of the problem is that today we have been so westernized that we think that this emotion that we feel for the opposite sex is love from the door. Let me go this way with you. In the ancient days, when a person put themselves off to be a priest, they had to prove it by lineage. You had to prove that you was a priest. In the book of Ezra, you'll see in the 2nd or 3rd chapter of the book of Ezra, many people who said they was of the priesthood got excommunicated because they couldn't verify that they were priests. When a man in the ancient days said that he was a prophet, he had to prove and verify that he was a prophet. And he had to prove it by his actions. Well, today, people come off and say they're anything. People come off and say that they're actually in love with an individual. But there is no proof or evidence needed except this feeling. You know, I just met you, but I'm in love with you. The understanding of love has taken on a new meaning and a new definition now. It has nothing to do with the original understanding of love because you have a love for your people. You know, you want to look out for your people because you love your people. That's one love, and that's the original form of love. The closest form of love I've seen to the Creator, how he loves us as a people, is the love that a mother has for a child. A mother's love for a child, a true mother, because some women don't love their children, but a true mother, her love for her child goes beyond the reasoning of most things, which means that she'll love that child, and the child has nothing to do with earning that love. It's a natural love. It's a love that child can mess up or act up, and the mother will still love the child. Even during discipline moments and times, the mother may have to separate that child in the corner, but she'll never stop loving that child. Well, today, in these relationship things that we have, that we think we're in love, and we base that off of a feeling that we have for an individual, when that individual stops satisfying your need for them in your life, you're no longer in love with them. You know, it's easy for you to separate from them and move on and find someone else who now satisfy that portion of desire or need in your life that you had for that one that you said that you love, that you would never leave. So that's not love at all. Because when love doesn't change. Love is always constant and forever. Love is an action word. You know, love goes beyond how I feel and what I think about you just because of what you do for me. Love goes into an area of existence where just because. That's why. Because. Why does the Most High love us so much after all the negative and evil things that we've done to him? But he does. He loves us still. So I just wanted to touch on that because a lot of people, in my opinion, have the wrong understanding of love. Can a man marry a woman without loving her? Absolutely. Because first of all, the principles of the principles of marriage shouldn't be based off of emotions. You should almost do nothing based off of your emotions. Almost everything that you do should be because of sound reasoning. You don't marry because you want somebody to have sex with and they got a nice body or a pretty face. You marry for the purpose of acceleration. Someone that will be beneficial to your life, to help you to accelerate, to raise a family, to raise children, to better your relationship with the Creator. And those reasons doesn't always necessarily mean that that person has to look a certain way or make you feel a certain way. The person just has to fit the needs that you have in your life. And if they fit that need in your life and they're working toward the betterment of the family, the structure, you know, whatever it is that we need to do, most importantly, worship the Almighty. That individual is fitting that need, then that's grounds for marriage from the door. That's grounds for marriage. Now, along the way, if you're any part of a decent individual, a decent human being, you will learn to love that individual along the way. You might not start off loving them. You might not even want to be with the individual from the beginning. But that need in your life is so great, and that person matches that need so great that you can't have that individual without loving that individual for any amount of time if that person is the person that you're supposed to have. You follow me?
Okay.
So we base our relationships to people off of an emotion. And that emotion changes over time. The person might get too fat. All of a sudden, I don't love them anymore. A dude might have gotten in a car accident and his face is deformed. He can't eat right, so he ain't got that great husky body, you know, like what you see right here. He ain't got that no more. He ain't got that pretty face no more because he was in that accident, and all that changes. So do your love change?
Wow.
Because if you base your love off of those physical features, when those physical features have dissipated or become not as they used to be, do you fall out of love? Now, if you based your marriage or your desire to marry off of the true essences of life, then where would your love go? Wouldn't go anywhere.
Okay.
That's why I say a mother's love is the closest love to the Creator that I know of. See, a mother's love is a pure love. It's a love that no matter what that child does, no matter how sick that child gets, if that child gets hit by a car and his face is deformed or her face is deformed and her body is all messed up, that mother will still love that child. So one of the questions I asked was, did Adam love Eve? When the Creator made Eve in the garden, did he love her or did she love him?
No.
You know what I mean?
Right.
They didn't even know each other.
Right.
They was just introduced to each other. There was nobody else to even know what an emotion was, but they just grew to each other. And whatever they grew, whatever they loved, or whatever they grew to learn about each other or to love in each other, it grew over time. It didn't just fall out the sky. It wasn't something that just happened. It was something that was worthy. You know, something that people earn through their actions, through their deeds. Something that has to be proven and not just something that is accepted. Today, we walk around and we say, I love you. I love you. We just met you. Okay. And I love you. I say I love you. Not with the intent that we love all of our people. Because that love never leaves. It should never leave. But with the intent that I have this emotional feeling for you. It's a difference, and it's not real. We have learned to be some of the most fraudulent people, and we cover it up very well. And we've gotten in the habits now of giving people a false illusion or a false impression of who we are and how we feel for individuals. And it's not true. It's not true. All right? Are there any questions in the room? Feek, shalom, Feek. What's up, Rafiq? Oh, we got any questions in the room? How's the family, my brother? I pray that everybody's well. And thanks for joining us today. All right, do you see any questions? I don't see any questions either. So, family, if you ain't got no questions, you know we got a couple hours to do this thing. If you don't have any questions, we're going to move on to one of the topics I wanted to discuss today. Does anyone have any questions? If you have any questions, type your questions in the room. I believe I have it available so that everyone can type. All right, here we go. It's been stated by a lot of people, and a lot of people under the impression that we cannot keep the laws of the Creator in captivity.
I heard that too.
Yeah. It is so bad that a lot of our people eat pork, work on the Shabbat day, cook on the Shabbat day. Some of them steal and feel like we're here in the land of our captivity. There's no reason why we can't steal. They stole from us. They did all type of abominable things to us so we can do these things to them. We do a lot of things today because we believe that, some people believe that in the land of our captivity, we cannot keep the law. So I want to address some of these issues of us being able to keep the law in the land of our captivity. Turn with me today to the book of Daniel. I want to start in Daniel, the first chapter. Daniel, the first chapter, the first verse. Now, the story of Daniel is pretty amazing, and a lot of people who haven't taken the time to really understand history and understanding the scriptures will be confused about what's going on with the scriptures of Daniel. Leon, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Now everyone, I can't see everyone's name in the room, but Shabbat Shalom to everyone that's here. I pray that the Most High guides my mind, my spirit, my body, my language, and my speech as I approach unto you, his people. You are his hidden treasure in the earth. Kay, I seen you. Casey, I seen you in the room. Shalom, shalom. I've seen several people in the room. I just want to pay my respects and say shalom to you. Mr. Shalom. Nafshaim, Moore, shalom, shalom. Kanuka, shalom. Craig, shalom. Malachi, shalom. So that's just a few. Shabbat shalom to you all. The portion I want to cover right now is dealing with, can we keep the law in captivity? If you're in the room and you're still here and you're watching, you can always post your questions in the room. If you have any, you can post your questions in the room and we'll address your questions that you may have in the room pertaining to the law in captivity or anything else that you may have that you want to discuss. Creator willing, if we're able, we'll answer and address those questions. Now, a lot of people say we can't keep the holy days because we're in the land of our captivity. And that's another thing that I have a problem with. If we don't keep the holy days in our captivity, then how would our children know what is supposed to be done? Okay. How would they know how to do what is supposed to be done? And how would they know how it feels to actually participate in doing these things? See, when I said about love, remember what I said about love? It's an action thing. A person has to earn that right. They have to actually do it in order for you to understand that they love you. Same thing with keeping the laws. We are supposed to do the laws. Hanua, shalom, shalom, Shabbat shalom, Pua. We have to actually do the laws of the Most High to get that enrichment in our essence about serving the Creator. It's one thing to know the laws, and yeah, I know about that. I know a lot about Islam. but I don't practice Islam, so I haven't commanded that Islamic spirit to come upon me. When you learn of the Most High and you do what the Most High has required of you, and you begin to practice these things, you command a certain energy, a certain presence to come upon you, and you become of that nature. Hebrew. What is that question want to say?
When did the children learn the Most High's name?
When did the children of Israel learn the Most High's name? We're going to sidebar my conversation, and we're going to address one of the questions that came up in the room. The children of Israel didn't learn the Most High's name until the book of Exodus, the 6th chapter, from verse 1 to 3, I believe it is, when the Most High reveals his name to Moses, and then Moses was told to go back and tell the people that this is who has sent him. That's the first time where that we have in history where it was recorded when Most High's name was revealed. So one might ask, well then, how does it appear in the book of Genesis, the 2nd chapter, the 7th verse? How it appears is because supposedly it was written afterwards. After the name was revealed, the author went back and wrote it, and now we have it already instituted in certain places throughout the scriptures. So sister, I pray that that answers your question. But that's the first place where the Most High's name was revealed. Yod-Heh, Wah-Heh. You can pronounce it any way you know how, and I'll accept that. Okay, did I miss something? Sis, no need to apologize. This is about the family. It's not about my agenda today, and it's not going to ever be about my agenda. It's about the family. So whatever the questions is that the family have is what I'll address. No matter where I'm at in the scriptures, I'll pause and I'll cease, and I'll address the questions of the family.
Got a question from Odiah, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. He says, how are we to do the holy days if there is not a priest present according to Leviticus 23?
All right. I want to stop you right there. What's his name? Obadiah? What's his name?
Uyadai.
Oh, Cuadai. Okay. I want to stop you right there for one thing. There are priests present today. The problem is some of the priests, well, none of the priests are operating on the order of Aharon in the priests in ancient days, because there's so many more things for us to learn. I would say none of them that I know of are operating on the order of the priesthood as in ancient days. Okay, so it's wrong. In my opinion, it's wrong for you to say that there are no priests today. I would rather we say I don't accept the priesthood today, and that would be more true than there are no priesthood today. Obadiah, welcome to the room, Obadiah. Can you give us a little bit of history on Esau, Obadiah? Because I know you have that information. If you can, just let me know if you want to come on and do the presentation and present a little bit about Esau, because that was one of the questions came in the room, and I couldn't give the brother all the information that was needed to really satisfy him on that level. All right, but my brother, with the priesthood information, how can we keep the laws if we don't have priesthood? One thing we have to keep in remembrance is this. In our efforts to keep the law, they're being done as a memorial, as a remembrance of what we used to do in the ancient days. Like, for example, we don't actually slaughter an animal. We don't kill them. Like we just using Pesach, for example. We do kill them, but we don't sacrifice any animals because we can't sacrifice in the land of our captivity. But yet we will go through the practices of keeping the Passover. Yeah. And we'll do those things. We'll eat the lamb and we'll eat the bitter herbs, and we, put all the leaven away from our homes and things of that nature for the 7 days that's required. That's so that that spirit can stay enriched within us. Okay? Now, we first, this thing goes on so many different levels that it's all about your intent. We know without a shadow of a doubt that the Most High is not pleased with where we are, where we at in this land, and that 99% of the things that we do because of our desire to be pleasing to Him. Not that these things are actually what has been commanded in every ayat and dot of the word of the law. But because of our desires to be pleasing to Him and what He's required of us, this is what got us mercy thus far in this earth, because of what we do in attempts to try to be pleasing to Him. Okay? So to answer the question from my brother, besides the issue of the priesthood being asleep and not being awakened, but yet they are here, we have to go through those motions. And we have to do everything according to that law to the best of our ability that we're able to do. And some things that we cannot do is still within keepings of the law, because the law requires you to do certain things only in a certain place. And because we're not in that place, then we still have to abide by and do what the Creator says in the law for us to do. Okay? Now, I don't know if that's a continuation to that same question or if that's a different question. But the law, when the Most High gave certain laws, like the Shabbat day and like the Feast of Unleavened Bread, those things we were told to do in all of our dwellings. If the Creator told us to do something in all of our dwellings, that almost says that He knew we would be in captivity and we are to continue on these practices and these traditions, these customs. But what we are doing when we keep holy days and things of that nature, even the weekly Shabbat, we are keeping a memorial of the actual events. Okay? That's what we're actually doing. See, you have to read these things because I can't see them. I mean, if you don't mind.
No, no problem. I believe his response to what you're saying is Hosea 3:4. For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, and without a prince, and without sacrifice. And it was without an image, and without an ephod, and without teraphim.
I think you misunderstand what I'm saying to you. I totally agree with the scriptures. I'm not saying the scriptures are wrong. We don't have an established king. We don't have an established priesthood. And that's the same thing on the lines of what I was saying earlier. The priesthood is still here. The priests are still here. The king is still here. That bloodline is in the earth. So if that bloodline is in the earth, then that means that that individual who owns that position or that title is here in the earth in these days. Now, whether the Most High has woken them up to the knowledge of who they are and brought them back to the ancient knowledge of how to perform certain duties and rituals, that's one thing. But that bloodline is still here in the earth. You know, in the book of I believe it's Jeremiah 31 and somewhere around 38, 39, the Most High says, as long as the seas roar and the oceans roar and the sun is in the sky and all those things, that He would always keep the seed of Israel in the earth forever until those things cease to be. So the seed of Israel carries the lineage of the priesthood, the lineage of the king, and the prophets and all those things. They are still here in the earth with us. It's just that they don't know who they are.
Yeah, Hosea says, Hosea 2:11, I will also cause her mirth to cease, her feast days, her new moons, and her Sabbaths, and all her solemn feasts. And then Hannah says, hallelujah, they don't know who they are.
That's right.
Speaking to the priest.
Now, Kuala, I believe it is. Let me address that issue that you just said. That the Creator will cause our holy days and our feast days and new moons and Shabbat to cease. We're just getting back into the knowledge of who we are. We're just picking up on these things once again. So there has been a time in history when those things ceased. For many years, since our forefathers went into captivity, many years, we had not done these things. And it's just recently, within the last 100 years, that we've been returning to the Creator. But we left Israel, the land of Israel, way back. You understand? Almost 2,000 years ago is when we left Israel. But that is a long period of time when our laws and everything that we had to do for the Almighty had ceased. And the amazing thing is that the Most High used these Europeans to cause our book of reckoning to be preserved to the letter of the law in which it is. He's caused these same oppressors to preserve our books for the time until he was ready to reveal these secrets to us. And here we are now, just picking up on the laws of the Almighty and just beginning to do the things that was required of us from ancient days. Okay? So that has been fulfilled. And it has been a long time that we haven't done the new moon, the holy days, or even kept a simple Shabbat. Now we're in a stage of development where we have a little portion of freedom, a little portion of freedom. And we are able to call back to remembrance, as the book of Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter says, when we call these things to mind and begin to do them in the land of our captivity where the Most High has placed us, then the Most High will hear from heaven and turn our captivity from a curse to a blessings. Those are the words of the Almighty. So that lets us know that there is going to come a time, it's already here, when the Most High would reverse the curse of Hosea, where the law wouldn't be in our mouths anymore, and we wouldn't be keeping holy days, and we wouldn't be keeping the new moon, the Shabbat. We wouldn't be doing all those things. It has all been reversed. And now the Most High has caused a great awakening in the earth where we are now able to partake of these things. And now a lot of us find reasons why we will not or do not partake, because we think that our people are still stuck in that time. And we're not. Okay? We're elevating to a higher time and higher place and elevation where the Most High is opening up our minds. The brother has another question?
Yeah, well, basically he has two responses. He says, I can understand the bloodline still being here, but being took out of rulership to even be able to perform our heritage. And then he says, Isaiah 24, verse 1, Behold, the Most High maketh the earth empty, and make it waste, and turn it upside down, and scatter abroad the inhabitants therefore. And Hannah says, please give this scripture again concerning the seed of Israel being in the earth as long as they are the sun and the stars, etc.
Jeremiah 31. And my brother, I'm going to answer your question. Don't think that I'm ignoring your question, because I'm not. Jeremiah 31, I believe it's verse 38. It says, Behold, the day cometh, saith the Creator, that the city shall be built, and the Creator of the tower, Haniel, place a gate. No, I'm in the wrong place. Hold on a second, please. Okay, I'm sorry. It's started 34. Jeremiah 31 and 34. This is about the new covenant that the Most High said that he will give unto the earth. It says, And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, for the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Creator. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. So the Most High is telling us at that point that all those curses that he brought upon us, at this particular time, he's going to forget those things. once he placed that new covenant in the earth within us. Not no New Testament, not no book called the New Testament, but the new covenant within us. And you read that in 31 and 31, I believe it is. All right, verse 35, it says, thus saith the Creator, which giveth the sun for an ordinance of light by day, and an ordinance of the moon, and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea where the waves thereof roar. The Creator of hosts is his name. He says in 36, if those ordinances depart from before me, saith the Creator, then the seed of Israel shall also cease from being a nation before me forever. Then he goes on and says, thus saith the Creator, if the heavens above can be measured, and the foundation of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off the seed of Israel from all that they have done, saith the Creator. Okay? So that answers your question, I pray. That at least brings about the scripture references of the things that I was referring to. All right, my brother, I want to get to quite a question again. Could you read that Isaiah 24 and 1 that he stated?
Okay, Isaiah 24 and 1. Behold, the Most High maketh the earth empty and maketh waste.
Stop there for a second. Did the Most High make the earth empty?
Not now.
Did he make the earth a waste?
No.
Okay, so that's letting us know that something else is being said in this scripture. It's not taken literally for what it's saying. It's a prophecy. It's a parable. It's a similitude of something that the Father is going to do. Read on, please.
And maketh waste, and turneth it upside down.
He's going to shake it up. Turn it upside down. He's going to shake it up. Read on.
And scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof.
And scatter abroad the inhabitants thereof. Is there any more?
No, that's it.
That's it?
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, well, it's inconclusive. I don't know why my brother would bring that about. But the whole purpose to the scripture, my brother, is that the Most High is going to do some tremendous things in the earth. He's going to cause a great awakening, a great shaking. He's going to do a lot of his work right here in the earth for things to take place and for times to change. He has to do that in order to put us in our rightful place, in our position. Do you know this government is not going, not just this government, but the governments of the earth are not going to just surrender and give up their power and authority. The Most High has to shake up the earth. He has to make things happen so that he can put us in our rightful place. Okay? And that's how the Most High will move forward and do things that need to be done for us, our people. But it's another scripture that I want to read. I wanted to get into the book of Daniel, but it's fine. I'm going to read Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter, because I want to speak about just that little portion about how we are to serve the Creator. And if we do not do these things, how the Most High would deal with us. Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter. You mind reading that?
No problem. Deuteronomy, chapter.
Verse 1.
All right.
This is what is supposed to take place when you're in the land of your captivity. This is how you're supposed to walk in the ways of the Almighty. But the reason why I'm reading this is because my brother brought out a scripture that says that the Most High will do away with the laws, do away with all the holy days and the feast days and the new moons. He will do away with all those things. So my question is, if those things are all done away with, what would the Most High use as a measuring rod to determine if we are righteous and if we are worthy of his blessings? If we're acting and conducting ourselves like everybody else and like the Gentiles, then what will be the purpose of the Most High reaching down to pull his people back to himself? Read on, please.
And Moses spake unto the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Israel, saying, this is the thing which the Almighty hath commanded. If a man vow a vow unto his...
You're in the wrong place, my brother.
Oh, you said...
Deuteronomy 30.
Oh, yeah. You said Deuteronomy. You're right. I'm the number down the aisle.
Deuteronomy is right after Numbers.
Yeah. I don't know how I did that. 30, right?
Yes.
30.
I agree with you, my brother. We ought to cry out to the Most High and keep His laws. Okay. I agree with you. Read on, please.
Okay. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come unto thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee.
Now, when it shall come to pass that all these things that I have set before thee, the blessings and the curses. So when all these curses come upon you, when all these blessings have finished and the curses came, and when the curses are finished, in the process, the Father's going to do some great works for us. But the Most High is letting us know. And as it has come to pass, where all these things that have come upon thee, the blessing and the curses, which I have set before thee, which means that these things was done at the hand of the Almighty. Read on, please, what it says.
And all these things come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind.
When you remember these things, when you bring about an action to do these things, read on, not just think about them, but you got to pull forth your foot and your hands to do what the law says for you to do. But read on, let's see what happens.
And shall call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy Elohim has driven thee.
So to say, when you call them to mind upon the nations where the Creator your Elohim have driven you, where He have taken you captive, and now in that land of your captivity, you're going to now call to mind the cursings and the blessings that was previously left on record. Okay. So that means that there was a time when you didn't have those things. Okay. Now you have them, you're reading them, you're learning them, and you're meditating and thinking on these things. That's what it means by calling to mind. Read on, please.
And shalt return unto the unto the Most High thy Elohim. Thou shalt obey His voice according to all that I command thee.
Stop right there, please. He's saying, and I understand that you are aware of what's taking place, but I just need to iterate it so that it will be understood in a different light. It's one thing to remember these things. It's another thing to actually do them. And remember, we're talking about us being in the land of our captivity. Okay. The book starts off by talking about us being in the land of our captivity. Okay. The 30th chapter of the book of Deuteronomy. Now it says, when you're in the land of your captivity, and you remember, you call to mind the cursings and the blessings and His law that the Most High gave you, then you began to do them. You see, if we weren't supposed to do the laws of the Almighty in the land of our captivity, then why does Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter, tells us that these are the things or the requirements of the Almighty to gain His favor again? Yeah. Read on, please. Start at verse 2.
Verse 2. And shalt return unto the Most High thy Elohim. Thou shalt obey His voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, and all thine heart, and all thine soul.
With all thy heart and with all thy soul, thou shalt serve the Creator thy Master. Read on a little bit more, please.
That then the Creator thy Elohim will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee.
Now, after you called these things to mind, and you began to do these things that you called in mind, means put them in motion, then the Most High will reward you, and He will turn your captivity. These are the things that we are to do while in captivity, the laws of the Almighty. So we got so many brothers and sisters out here teaching us that we cannot do the laws of the Almighty in captivity. One person says to me, well, actually several people said to me, show me anywhere in the scriptures where anybody kept the laws of the Almighty in captivity. That's one of the questions that comes up. Is there something that you need to read?
I know he was just responding to what you said. We are to cry out to the Most High and keep His law.
There you go. They say, where in the scriptures, Prince, can you show me where we kept or anyone kept the laws of the Almighty in captivity? That's what today's lesson is all about. In today's lessons, we're going to start in the book of Daniel, the first chapter, the first verse. So can you turn there with me, please? To the book of Daniel, the first chapter, the first verse. If you have it out, you can start reading.
Okay.
Oh, let me tell you a little bit. Let me give you a little bit of history about Daniel first. Excuse me. It's some of the research and work that I did today that I wanted to read out to some of the people. It was Deuteronomy, the 8th chapter, the 3rd verse. And it says, "And he humbled thee, and suffered thee to hunger, and fed thee with manna, which thou knewest not. Neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Creator does man live." Now I'm going to read that again, family. And this is not out of the New Testament. This is in the book of Deuteronomy, the 8th chapter, the 3rd verse. "And he humbled thee, and suffered thee to hunger, and fed thee with manna, which thou knewest not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man does not live by bread only, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Creator does man live." Now that's so important. That's the underlining message of today. That out of every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Creator does man live by. Let's read the book of Daniel, please.
In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Elohim gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, which part of the vessels of the house of Elohim, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his Elohim. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his Elohim.
Now stop there for a minute. Now, just for your understanding, to bring you up a little bit, Shinar, does anybody know what Shinar is?
What is it?
Shinar is the ancient name of Babylon. Shinar. You can find Shinar in Genesis, the 10th chapter, where it speaks about Shinar, the inhabitants of those people. It also speaks about in the 11th chapter in the east, when the inhabitants from the east came to the land Shinar and built the tower, Babel.
Mm-hmm.
All these things was done in Babylon. The ancient name of Babylon is Shinar. So when we read here that Nebuchadnezzar took and brought the vessels, the things that he took out of the temple that belonged to the Israelites, when he sacked the city and took Jehoiakim captive, he brought all those things into the land of Shinar. Now, I want you to keep in mind that this captivity that Nebuchadnezzar did, there were several people who are famous through the scriptures, who have books, who are prophets and priests, who all came out in that captivity. They may not all came out at the same time, but they came out in the same captivity, which means that that guy, Nebuchadnezzar, that king, went in and brought these young men out. Now, when they took out men, they did just like they did in Africa. They took out the nobles. They took out young men who was of a certain age and young women who were a certain age. But in Babylon, they took the men with skills, special talents. Therefore, they took the men of nobility. They didn't take common folk, just any and every old body. They took the sons of princes, the sons of Levites, sons of kings. They took those people who were next in line, which means that those men had the finances to educate their children, and that they did. So when we read about men like Ezra, because Ezra came out of that captivity, Ezekiel, prophet Ezekiel, he came out of that captivity. Daniel, young man, Nehemiah, Daniel. When they took Daniel, Daniel was supposedly around 15, 16 years old, they say. But Daniel was so sharp at 15 and 16 years old that Ezekiel, who was a little younger than him, wrote about him in his book. That's how sharp Daniel was. Daniel wasn't a joke. Daniel was one of the major prophets of the Almighty, and people through history has not given Daniel his proper credit. Daniel was an amazing young man. All right, let's read on a little bit about the story of Daniel, the first chapter. Now remember, the theme of this reading that we're doing today is to show that even though we're in the land of captivity, we are to keep the laws of the Almighty. Okay?
Okay.
Read on, please.
Daniel chapter 1 verse 3. And the king spake unto
Ashpenaz, the master of the eunuchs,
that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princesses, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning, and knowledge, and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learnings and the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine, and which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years. And at the end, therefore, there might stand before the king.
Read that verse again, please. Now watch what's taking place here.
And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank.
The king was actually allowing them to eat and partake of his food. See, these wasn't regular common people. They were people of prestige, people of nobility, but yet they were children. And he was honoring them. Although they was his slaves, he was still honoring them in that capacity. So he had the finest of food, the delicacies of food. And what the king did was, as a secret, not a secret, but an ancient thing that I want to share with you. When you partake of something that belongs to a man, you are actually partaking of that man's spirit. I need you to understand what I'm saying to you. It's almost to the point where you shouldn't allow anyone to give you anything without you giving them something in exchange to release their spirit from it. Okay? If you go into the house of Christians and you sit down and you partake of Christians' food, their foods, and you partake of it, then you're allowing a portion of their energy to be transferred into you. It's best that you don't eat in their places. Now, if you go to a store and you pay for what you're getting, you're releasing that spirit, and now it's owned by you. That's why the Father tells us in the law that thou should not steal. Because if you steal something, you're actually capturing that person's essence or that person's spirit, a portion of it, and you're bringing it, you're like forcing that spirit to become a part of your spirit, and it doesn't, in the spirit realm, it doesn't work that way. So evil or sin is up on you now because your spirit, their spirit is like colliding. So you shouldn't steal for that reason. The Most High says don't do it, but it's a deeper understanding as to why you should not steal. A lot of people don't understand these things, so I'm trying to break it down to you on a level where you can understand it. If you're invited into people's homes, and let's say it's Christmas, and you don't celebrate Christmas, but yet you go into their homes and you sit down and you eat with them, you're partaking of that spirit.
Wow.
You see, this is a spiritual war that we're in. And a lot of people have no idea how deep this spiritual war is. When you enter into a person's home, their spirit is on their home. So you should always ask the Most High for protection when you enter into that person's presence, into that person's spirit. The simple thing of even touching an individual, spiritual powers are at work, even in the simple touch. You know, that's why in the scriptures it says, I believe it's in it's Yoel, I believe it is, where the scripture, where the Father says that they should just take hold of your garment and say, lead me to the Creator. See, they had to touch you because they wanted a portion of your spirit. They want a portion of you, your essence. These things are on a level that a lot of people are not aware of, but that's okay because I'm here to teach and I'm going to share this information with you.
Okay.
What you do with it after you're given it, it's up to you. It's your decision. So Daniel is not turning down the king's food for any reason that he just don't want to eat their food. He doesn't want to partake in their feasts. Daniel is saying, I don't need the king's food. The king can keep his food because he didn't really want to take care of the king's spirit. He didn't want that. Chemosh was the deity, if I'm not mistaken, that the Babylonians was worshiping at this time. He didn't want no part of that. You know, he wanted to keep his loyalty to the Creator, the King of all creation. So Daniel said, well, just bring me vegetables. The same thing you feed the common folk, feed me and our people. But not only that, it shows that Daniel was a vegan. He didn't want the pig. He didn't want the cow. He didn't want those things because the king's meat was unlawful. Why, in the land of captivity, is Daniel keeping the law if we're not supposed to keep the law in the land of captivity? Why didn't Daniel just sit down and say, oh man, I ain't in my land no more, so come on, let's eat.
Because we're supposed to keep the law.
Yeah. Now, if you think about it, a decree came out from the king later on in the book of Daniel where it says that when you hear a certain chime, when the bell chimes, you have to stop where you are and give reverence to, was it either their God or their king? You had to pray or honor their king. And Daniel and his three brothers, they were caught not doing that. They were caught, well, first they wouldn't give reverence to the king in the manner that they wanted him to worship. I would have to really read that again to get the full understanding of how it was. But Daniel, oh, I remember now. I remember. That was one situation where you had to give reverence to their God. And the three men, they said, we can't do that. They got caught. They got set up. They got caught. And they went into to see what they was assuming would be their death by throwing them in a fiery furnace because they wouldn't worship another deity. They said something wonderful like, if our God or creator, if our creator be the creator, then he will provide. We'll be all right. And if he doesn't provide, that's all right too, because we're going to serve him. If we didn't have to keep the laws of the Most High in captivity, then why did those men sacrifice their lives for that purpose of keeping the law, remaining true to the Creator? You understand? Daniel had a situation where you had to pray a certain time of the day. You couldn't get caught in the land praying to anybody but their deity. And Daniel got caught praying. And he wouldn't humble himself and pray to anyone other than the Most High. But Daniel remained loyal to the Creator. Why would Daniel risk his life in a land of captivity if the Creator only meant for us to keep the law in the land of Israel? You understand? In the book of Esther, when the king, when the brother, what was his name? When the brother wanted to make an accusation against the children of Israel, the Elamite brother, he wanted to make a declaration against the children of Israel and have them put to death. And what he did was he set him up and he went to the king. He said, King, there's a group of people who keep their own laws and they pay no regards to the king's law. They keep their own law. Now, that was in the Persian Empire. In Shushan is where they were. That was not in Jerusalem, but yet they were keeping the laws of the Almighty. So I've given you three different instances of our people in the land of captivity, in the land of their captivity, where they still kept the laws of the Almighty. You know, this is very important. So let's get back to the story of Daniel. But before we do, I want to read something to you in relevance to what we're reading. Chapter 1, the Babylonian captives being Daniel's education at Babylon. In the 3rd year, compared to Jeremiah 25:1, the 4 years Jehoiakim came to the throne at the end of the year, which Jeremiah reckons as the 1st year, but which Daniel leaves out of the count, being an incomplete year. Thus in Jeremiah it is the 4th year in Daniel. The 3rd, however, Jeremiah 25:1, 46:2. Moreover says that the 4th year of Jehoiakim coincided with the 1st of Nebuchadnezzar. So when Jehoiakim was king for 4 years, then Nebuchadnezzar came in at that time. When they later conquered the Egyptians at Carchemish, not that the deportation of captives from Jerusalem was in the 4th year of Jehoiakim. This probably took place in the end of the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, shortly before the battle of Carchemish. Nebuchadnezzar took away the captives as hostage for the submission of the Hebrews. Historical scriptures give no positive account of this first deportation, with which the Babylonian captives, that is, Judah's subjection to Babylon for 70 years. Now, when the children of Israel was freed, so-called free from the Babylonian captivity, after serving some time, this is where you get the story of Ezra and Nehemiah. Historically, what took place was Nebuchadnezzar had a son or a grandson. They're not so sure who he was. And this grandson, is the one who, when you hear the story about the writing on the wall, the handwriting on the wall, the Medo-Persian Empire came in, Cyrus came in, took over that empire from him. When that happened, so Daniel was prophet to Nebuchadnezzar, who is Nebuchadnezzar's grandson or son, King Cyrus, and Xerxes. All 4 of those was king over Babylon during the time of Daniel's, Cyrus and Darius. All 4 of them Daniel lived through all those empires. So when the handwriting on the wall took place, Nebuchadnezzar's grandson or son was in power. Darius came in, took over the city. King Cyrus came in, took over the city, sacked the city. Okay? And after some time, he set out a decree, and you'll find that in the book of Ezra, the 1st chapter. He set out a decree to restore Jerusalem. You see, in the book of Isaiah, I believe it's the 45th chapter, the Most High speaks about Cyrus or Darius. Let's pull there. About, I believe it's Cyrus being his anointed, as in a form of a Messiah. The Most High had a certain spirit on him, and the Most High had him to go back, or to set out a decree for the children of Israel to go back and rebuild Jerusalem, the temple in Jerusalem. This is where you get the story of Cyrus. This is where you get the story of, you find that in Isaiah 45th chapter, the 1st verse, where Cyrus, the creator, anointed Cyrus to be a Messiah, a form of a Messiah, who was not an Israelite. He was a Gentile, he was a Persian. He anointed him to do great things. Cyrus set up a decree for the children of Israel to return to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple. But that didn't happen till years later. But what happened was when Cyrus released them from captivity, Daniel didn't go. Ezra, Nehemiah, they left. And Nehemiah came into Jerusalem and Ezra came into Jerusalem around the same time frame. Xerxes was king. Okay? The decree, they had to go find the paperwork showing that Cyrus had actually ordered for them to go back into the land and set it up so that we can build Jerusalem. Nehemiah got that information. Nehemiah went to the King Xerxes at that time, and they went back and they built the land. But Daniel didn't leave. Daniel was in the house of government from his youth. When he came into Babylon, he was in the king's palace. He was in the order of a government official from day one, and he never left. Maybe because a lot of the people didn't leave. Now, I'm only hypothesizing right now, using my own mind right now to try to rationalize why he didn't leave. But Daniel was an old man also. You have to remember that. He was old, but he did not leave. He stayed in Babylon. He probably passed away in Babylon. We don't know the answers to that. All right? So let's go back to Daniel's, the first chapter. I think I've given you enough history about the story of Daniel and the history of our people. Now, there were different waves of deporting the slaves into Shinar, into Babylon. Ezra might have came on the second or third wave, but Daniel came on the first wave. Ezekiel might have came on the second or third wave, but Daniel came on the first wave. Okay? Read on, please. Tell us where you are.
Daniel, first chapter, verse 5. And the king appointed them daily provision of the king's meat and the wine which he drank, so nourishing them for 3 years, that at the end thereof there might stand before the king. Now among these were the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah.
Mishael
and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the Eunuchs gave names.
Well, wait a minute. The prince of the eunuchs had to rename them. They had original Hebrew names, but then when they got in Babylon as slaves, they had to receive new names. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, it does.
See, the same thing happened with us when we came, our ancestors came here to America as slaves. They had to rename us. Not that they couldn't find out our names, but they didn't want us calling on our names. You know why?
Because our names had the Most High, or was created for the Most High.
Absolutely.
Attributes for the Most High.
Absolutely.
It's calling that power.
They're absolutely correct. They did not want us calling on the power of the Almighty. There's power in the name. And we covered that a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. This is why if you're still holding on to your Babylonian name, if you still calling yourself by a slave man's name, it's very important that you recognize who you are. When you reclaim your heritage as a Hebrew, you also have to reclaim your nationality in totality. My name has been changed many, many years ago. I couldn't even remember when I changed my name on documentation for these Europeans. We have to claim who we are because your spiritual essence is contained in what your name is also. You know what I mean? Daniel happens to be a Hebrew name. Daniel. It means either the creator should judge or judge of the creator. Daniel. Dan means judge. All right? So it's very important that you do what you need to do to get your name in its proper alignment. Whatever you have to do. A lot of people put these Facebook names up on Facebook, and they be some thorough Hebrew names. But if you go to the government and look at their driver's license, their name is John or Helen Smith. Mm-hmm. Helen Smith or John Brittingell. Some European. See, your name shows your possession of who you belong to. And if you still have the slave master's name attached to your name, then you actually belong to him. You don't belong to the creator in your fullest extent like you should. So it's very important that we separate from the oppressors by changing our names as well. So if I haven't said anything to you worthy of conversation throughout the course of our day, then you have to understand that let this be a message for you. Change your name, reclaim your Hebrew heritage in its fullness, change your name. Okay? So now the oppressor had to take away their energy, take away their strength. So the oppressors, as always, had to change their names. And what the oppressor did was they took away names like Daniel, judge of the creator, or El, and put their deity's name in their name. Belteshazzar. Belteshazzar. That's what they did. Read on, let's see what it is.
Okay, we're going to be at verse 6.
Tell us where you are.
Daniel chapter 1, verse 6. Now among these were the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. For he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar.
So this was all done to designate the mark of their new relationship, so that they might forget their former religion or their former culture, their former country. And that's the same thing that the oppressors did here with us in this captivity, tried to make us forget. They don't want us calling on the names of power. They want us to call on the names of a weaker vessel, slave man's, European man's name. In Joseph's case, remember, Zaphaniah. Why was Joseph's name changed? Yosef. See, same thing happened. When he went into captivity and he became emperor to the king, they had to change his name. They gave him a different name. Why? Because they had to show some type of ownership, and that's what happened. In Daniel's, it's indicative of his relationship to the heathen court. Belteshazzar, that is, Zar means prince. Zar means ruler. Zar means king. That's my name, Kizaridar. Zar means king or ruler within that. It's Aramaic. And Belteshazzar means Bel's prince. Bel being the deity. Shazar meaning the prince. Okay? However, flattering to him, it's not one retaining by scriptures, but the name making of his Elohim, Daniel, which means Elohim of my judge. The theme of the prophecies being Elohim's judgment on the heathen world. Hananiah, that is, whom the Creator has favored. Hananiah means whom the Creator has favored. Shadrach, from rock. Babylonia, the king, that is, the son. The root, the same root in Embrek, Genesis 41 and 43. Inspired or illuminated by the sun god. Mishael, that is, who is God, or God is. Mish meaning who. Who is compared to Elohim? To Mishak. They changed it to Mishak. The Babylonian retained the first syllables of Mishael, the Hebrew name, but for El, that is Elohim or the Creator, they substituted it for Shak. This is the Babylonian goddess called Shishak. You find her mention of that in Jeremiah, the 25th chapter, verse 26, somewhere in there. And I think the 51st chapter, the 41st verse, I think somewhere in there, you'll find reference to Shishak, or the Babylonian deity, the goddesses. Answering to the earth, or also Venus, the goddess of love and mirth. It was during her feast that Cyrus took Babylon. You remember when the handwriting on the wall? Mm-hmm. When Nebuchadnezzar was in Babylon having the feast, and the handwriting came on the wall and Daniel had to interpret it. Mm-hmm. The reason why that happened was because he ordered the most holy vessels that they took from the temple to be brought in so that they can drink out of the holy cups, the chalices, and the things that was made to give toast or praise to the Almighty. They utilized those things to give praises unto a false deity. When that happened, the Most High set Darius in arraignment, and Darius came in and tore up the kingdom. Cyrus, not Darius. Cyrus. Darius was his son or grandson, so in that order. Yeah. Azariah, that is, whom the Creator helps. And they changed Azariah's name to a big Negro. They call him a big Negro. Abednego. That is, servant of the shining fire. Thus, instead to the Creator, these his servants was dedicated by the heathens to their four leading gods. These were supposed to have been the leading gods of the Babylonians. Bel, the chief god, the sun god, the earth god, and the fire god.
Quick question for you.
Yes.
Hanana says I've changed my name when I was in Islam legally. Not sure if I can change it again without a problem with the establishment.
You wouldn't have to. What's your last name though, sis? You got to make sure you change your full name.
Oh, she said the video stopped.
The video stopped.
Yeah, that's what it said. That's what she just said. I don't know why.
It still say live. Tell her to go out and come back in.
Okay.
Has the video stopped for anyone else? Okay, he said no. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, you should always change, and a lot of people, what we do is, yeah, go out and come back in. What some people do is, some people change their first name. Not that that's her case. She may have changed, she's been in this for a long time.
Okay.
So she probably more than likely changed her entire name. But a lot of people change their first name and think that that's enough. No, you have to change your full name. And most often, as the Creator says, I believe it's Isaiah, the 44th chapter or 46th chapter, you shall surname yourself by the name of Yisrael. I believe that's Isaiah 46:2 or 4, so in that area. But you should surname yourself by the name of Yisrael. And that's really important. But there's so many things pertaining to this book and why we should keep the laws of the Almighty. Isaiah 44. There's so many reasons why we should keep the Creator's laws in the land of our captivity. So many. You want to read that Isaiah 44, please?
44:2.
Start at 44:1.
Okay. Yet now hear, O Jacob, my servant, and Israel, whom I have chosen. Thus saith the Elohim that made thee and formed thee from the womb, which will help thee. Fear not, O Jacob, my servant, and thou, Jerusalem, whom I have chosen. For I will pour water upon him that is thirsty, and floods upon the dry ground. And I will pour my spirit upon thy seed, and my blessing upon thine offspring.
He's saying he's going to pour his spirit upon his seed, upon their seed, and his blessings upon their offspring. That's talking about us, family. That when once we were lost, and now we see, is because the Creator's pulling that spirit upon us, opening up our minds. Read on, please.
And they shall spring up as among the grass, as the willows by the water courses.
That means that once when we wasn't, now we are. And we popping up all over the place. If you think about it, see, that's what I mean about prophecy. See how strong it is? Yeah. Israelites, the name of Israel, more and more people are hearing about the children of Israel throughout the earth. More and more people are hearing about them. More and more people becoming relative relations to who they are in their nationality by blood. They're understanding who they are. And we're popping up like grass all over the place. Yeah. Yes, in its season. Read on.
One shall say, I am the Lord's, and another shall call himself by the name of Jacob, and another shall subscribe with his hand upon the Elohim, and surname himself by the name of Israel.
There you go. So those three names, I am the Creator's, the name of Jacob, and Yisrael. You surnaming your last name. And your last name shall be Yisrael. So this is a connection piece for us. And what we have to do, we have to come back into our rightful state and give the Most High his praise and honor him as such by leaving our old identity and coming into our new identity, giving the slave master back his name and taking hold of who we are as a people, the name Yisrael. Okay? Let's turn back to Daniel's. We almost done. Daniel's the first chapter. You know what verse you left off on?
I believe we were at 7. This is Daniel chapter 1, verse 7. Unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, and to
Belteshazzar,
and to the name of Hananiah, Shadrach, and to Meshach, and to Isaiah, Abednego. But Daniel proposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself.
Now, what did he mean by defile himself? How could Daniel be defiling himself if he ate the king's meat?
Because he know he's not supposed to eat that stuff.
Why wasn't he supposed to eat it?
Because the Most High laws forbid him from doing so.
The Most High's laws forbid him from eating unclean foods. Daniel was aware of that. If Daniel was in captivity and he wasn't required to keep the law anymore, why did he make mention of that?
Because he was required to keep that law.
Because he's required to keep the law. So when people tell you you're not supposed to keep the law, you're not required to keep the law in captivity, that's not true. And here's a place in scriptures where you can verify that our ancestors still kept the law of the Almighty in the land of captivity. Read on, please.
Now Elohim had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my Elohim, the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse likened than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king.
So he's actually thinking that, Daniel, if you don't eat and you look sick and you look weak, that the king might try to kill me because I'm not doing my job.
Right.
That's what he's saying to Daniel. But Daniel's going to assure him it's not the issue. Let's challenge this for 10 days. And if I look just as meaty and thick and healthy, all I want is vegetables. That's all I want. Just give me vegetables and water. That's it. That's all I need. He ate a vegan diet. Daniel was healthier, stronger, plunkier, chunkier than everybody else who did not eat vegetables only. So he looked better. He looked so much better that the eunuchs now changed the law. Now everybody had to eat like Daniel.
Okay.
That's the kind of influence that you can have when you keep the Most High's law. The Most High says that this law should be your light in the sight of the nations. They shall see your wisdom through keeping his law in the land of your captivity.
I was just thinking that right when you said that. That's basically our job.
That's right. Read on, please.
Then said Daniel to Melazar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat.
Pulse is just vegetables.
Pulse to eat and water to drink. And then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenances of the children that ate the portion of the king's meat, and thou seest deal with thy servants. So he considered to them in this matter, and proved them 10 days. And at the end of the 10 days, their countenances appear fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus Melazar took away the portion of the meat and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse.
He took away that portion of meat and wine that they were supposed to drink and gave them pulse. That's right.
Y'all eat this now.
That's right. Read on, please.
And for these children, Elohim gave them knowledge and skill and all learning and wisdom. And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of days that the king had said he should bring them in. Then the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king communed with them. And among them all found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king.
Now, the importance behind that scripture, that there is none that stood before them like those four, is probably because, if you think about it, family, we all live differently in our land. Even in our land, everybody didn't keep the laws of the Most High to the best of their ability. These four men were the echelon of Israel, which means that their knee never bowed to any other power. Never would bow to any other power. They remained obedient and loyal to the Almighty. Even in their own land, they serve the Creator. They're not going to stop serving the Creator because they go into another land. You follow me? A lot of our people who were also a part of this captivity was wishy-washy. Pretty much like today. You got a lot of Israelites today that will be wishy-washy. They put on one personality on the Shabbat day. But when the Shabbat day is over, they jump out of that personality and jump into another personality and become other people. Until next Shabbat, till next Friday night. And when Friday night comes around, as it gets closer and closer to Shabbat, they put back on that super Hebrew suit. And on Shabbat, they're holier than thou, and they're righteous. And then the same cycle continues, that once Shabbat is over, they take that suit off and they become back to who they originally was for the other 6 days of the week. Daniel and his 3 friends, they didn't do that. They remained the same. This is why there was none found like them in the whole province of Babylon. Because they didn't get wishy-washy. They remained loyal to this truth. Loyal. Okay? Read on, please.
And in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and the astrologers that were in all the realm. And Daniel continued even unto the first year king of Cyrus.
In the first year of King Cyrus. So, there we are. That's the story of Daniel that we're going to cover today. Daniel, super Hebrews.
Yeah, I was just saying that too.
Yeah. Daniel was a very powerful brother. He was very powerful. And a lot of people don't understand the power, the might, and the strength that Daniel had. I want to read something before we close out. In reference to one of Daniel's prayers. Can we read the 9th chapter of the book of Daniel's?
Yes, we can.
I was going to go over this today in class for today's lesson, but I didn't do it because I felt it was more important that I covered the issue where a lot of people say we cannot keep the laws in captivity.
You said the 9th chapter?
Yeah. Absolutely. The Most High did give them, he would be absolutely correct. The Most High did give them intelligence, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding because of their obedience to him. That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, we're at Daniel 9th chapter. We'll start at verse 1. In the first year of Darius, the son of, I can't get the, Anathrese.
Who?
In the first year, Darius, the son of
Xerxes?
Xerxes.
Yeah, Xerxes. Darius' father.
Xerxes. of the seed of Medes,
The seed of the Medes. The Medo-Persian was one empire.
which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans. In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by the books of numbers of
Now,
the years.
let me correct you for a minute. Ahasuerus and Xerxes is supposed to be the same person.
Okay.
All right, just so a lot of people might not know, Ahasuerus and Xerxes is supposed to be the same person.
Okay.
Go ahead.
In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by the books the number of years whereof the word of the Elohim came to Jeremiah.
Can I take this over?
Yes, you can.
And the reason why I'm asking to take this over is because this is a very emotional chapter. The first portion of this, Daniel gives a prayer, and I wouldn't want to downplay it. This is your first time reading it, so you're really trying to get the feel and the understanding of it while you're reading it.
Yeah.
But I already have that. So if I may, I like to read it, if you allow me to.
Yeah.
I like to read it, and because I know what it's saying, but you can meditate on it while we're reading it, and then you can feel the energy behind this prayer. It's deep. Here we go. Daniel's the 9th chapter. We're going to start the first verse. In the first year of Darius, son of Ahasuerus, of the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans. In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by book the number of years whereof the word of the Creator came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolation of Jerusalem, which meant that we would be in captivity for 70 years in Jerusalem. And I prayed unto the Creator my Elohim, and made my confession, and I set my face unto the Creator Elohim, to seek by prayer and supplication with fasting and with sackcloth and with ashes. Let me give you a little history before we continue on. The book of Daniel was written in 2 languages. Part of it was written in Hebrew, part of it was written in Aramaic. So it jumps back from Hebrew to Aramaic, from Hebrew to Aramaic. It jumps back. Different parts of it are written in different portions, but both of them are like a form of Hebrew. All right. Verse 3, Daniel's chapter 9, verse 3. And I set my face unto the Creator Elohim, to seek by prayer and supplication with fasting and with sackcloth and with ashes. Family, it was something very important written right there. You see, Daniel was grieved in his spirit, and he sought an answer from the Creator. So he didn't just wait to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock in the morning, or before he went to bed and make prayer to the Creator. He actually went through a whole procedure of things. And watch what that procedure is. He seek the Creator. He petitioned the Creator through prayer, and also through supplication and fasting with sackcloth and ashes. He fasted, he meditated, he prayed, he lamented in his spirit, and he put on sackcloth and ashes all over his face and made himself ugly. He hurt his body with the sackcloth to rub up against his skin, to bring him into a state of agony. You know, it makes him real uncomfortable. But now he's also fasting from food and water, or however he was fasting physically. So all these things compiled upon him releases his energy so that his voices can be heard on high. And he did this. See, the prophets knew how to fast and pray and how to talk to the Creator. And that's what Daniel did. See, we read these things and we don't see the secrets in getting in touch with the Creator. We think that all we need to do is say what we want to say out of our mouths in this filth that we're in. Daniel knew that it was another procedure, and he followed those procedures and left them on record for us to be able to follow, to get in tune with the Almighty. And this is what we need to learn to do. He says, and I prayed unto the Creator my Elohim, and made my confession. the very first thing he did in his prayer, of course, he thanks the Almighty, but he made his confession to the Almighty. Something that a lot of us don't do. We start our prayers and we go and we just start asking. No. When I make prayer, I ask the Creator for permission to approach him, because I understand that I'm in an unclean state. I'm in an unclean condition. I'm an unclean man. And I need to be given special permission to be in the presence of an all-knowing, all-powerful, most holy King like he is. So I seek permission. And I go ahead and I continue and I go in on with my prayer, as we all should. Seek permission from the Almighty before you just presumptuously take it upon yourself to approach him. Show him the respect and honor that he's due. And I prayed unto the Creator, my Elohim, and made my confession. He confessed his iniquities and said, O Creator, the great and dreadful Elohim. He's given the Most High his proper praise. You understand? But look how he's singling him out from all the other Elohim. He said, the great and dreadful Elohim. You're not just Elohim, but you are the Elohim. The Elohim, the great one. He says, keeping the covenants and mercies to them that love him, and to them that do what?
Keep his commandments. Even
in captivity. Those that keep his commandments. Even in captivity. He says, we have sinned and have committed iniquity and have done wickedly and have rebelled even by departing from thy precepts and from thy judgments. Neither have we hearkened unto thy servants, the prophets, which spake in thy name to our kings, our princes, and our fathers, and to all the people of the land. O Creator, righteousness belongeth unto thee, but unto thee as unto us confusion of faces, as this day to the men of Judah, and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and unto all Yisrael that are here, and that are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven them, because of their transgressions, and they have trespassed against thee. O Creator, unto us belongeth confusion of face, to our kings, to our princes, to our fathers, because we have sinned against thee. To the Creator our Elohim belongeth mercies and forgiveness, though we have rebelled against him. Neither have we obeyed the voice of our Creator, our Elohim, to walk in his laws, which he set before us by his servant the prophets. Yea, all Israel has transgressed thy law, by even departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of Elohim, because we have sinned against him. He hath confirmed his word, which he hath spoken against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing up upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven have not been done as has been done upon Jerusalem. As it is written in the law of Moses, all this evil has come upon us, yet made we our prayers before the Creator our Elohim, that we might turn from our iniquities and understand thy truth. Therefore has the Creator watched upon us evil, and brought it upon us. For the Creator our Elohim is righteous in all his works which he doeth. For he obeyed not his voice. For we obeyed not his voice. And now, O our Elohim, that has brought thy people forth out of the land of Mitzrayim with a mighty hand, and has gotten thee renown as it is this day, we have sinned. We have done wickedly. O Creator, according to all thy righteousness, I beseech thee, let thou anger and thy fury be turned away from the city Jerusalem, thy holy mountain, because for our sins, for this iniquity of our fathers, Jerusalem and thy people are become a reproach to all that are about us. Now therefore, our Elohim, hear the prayers of thy servant and thy supplication, and cause thy face to shine upon thy sanctuary that is desolate. For the Creator's sake, O my Elohim, incline thy ear to hear. Open thy ears and behold our desolation, that the city which is called by thy name, for we do not present our supplication before thee for our righteousness, but for thy great mercies. O Creator, hear. O Creator, forbear. O Creator, forgive. Hearken and do, defer not for thy own sake, O my Elohim, for the city and thy people are called by thy name. Wow. All right, family, we're going to close out right now. We thank you for those who are in the listening audience for joining us and being a part of all that we do. We ask that the Most High's blessings be upon you. We ask that you continue on this path. Remember, change your name. Remember, keep the laws of the Most High, the land of our captivity, and never depart from the Most High. May the Most High be with you, now and forever, till the Rabbah. All praises be to the Most High, King of all creation, forever and forever. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Yeah, that was good. That prayer was powerful.
Yeah, it was, man. Shabbat Shalom.
But I think you did answer if we're supposed to keep the laws or not.